Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope you guys had a good, delicious lunch. For being so punctual. My name is Elsa Boni. I am one of the project managers for the Social Justice Fund. I specifically help facilitate the economic justice scheme project, the Mexican scheme project, and the comprehensive immigration reform given project this year. So I am very, very excited to have you all here, but also very excited to have Christian and Romeo, both from the immigrant rights organizing groups. And the format's going to be very similar than in the morning. I am going to be introducing you to the panelists and the organizations. Then I'm going to go through a series of questions, and then I'm going to give you guys a chance to ask questions.
Could you give us a little information about the immigration reform?
Yes, we'll do that. That's what we're going to be talking about.
Awesome.
So I am going to have my clock here, so I'm not checking Facebook. This is what I do. This is a very, very important year for immigrant rights organizing. This is a historic moment where, thank you, Sasha. Sasha, our great board member, supporting us with water. So I was saying this is a great year. This is historic for many, many years. Organized and unorganized immigrants have been working for immigration reform to pass a bill that will allow millions of people to come out of the shadows and become documented. It's a great year. There's a lot of energy, and sometimes, especially people who are not in the field, think that it just happened, or it was just a political move that just made it happen, and it was due to the elections or something. But the reality is that there has been a lot of work been done around immigration reform, and a lot of groups and people organizing around issues that are absolutely unfair. And in the process of fighting to get something on the paper as a law, people have been organizing themselves, their communities, and gaining incredible momentum. And so we're here to talk a little bit, not just about the bill, which is very exciting, and I'm going to be letting you guys talk to us about how exciting this is too, but also what has happened in order to get to where we are right now, which, by the way, the bill was just introduced yesterday, Friday, and there's a great video when I started organizing called "How Does a Bill Become a Law?" And it's like a little song, because that's how, as an immigrant, I learned that it's not just simple. There's a lot of work that has to happen from now, the moment where it's introduced, to the moment where it actually gets passed. So a lot of work has to be done too in the process. Not also what happens within the bill, but what are the communities, or how the communities have been organizing and struggling? What are the issues that people have been organizing around? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities that happened before, during, and after? What's going to happen after? What specific work your organizations have been doing, and specifically what you guys have been doing? I know we have two different organizations, both are from Oregon, but work in different, similar population in different areas and different projects, sometimes together in coalitions, sometimes separately. And I'm gonna be quiet pretty soon. This is very exciting for me. This is like my passion, so I'm very excited to be here. So let me first introduce you to Christian Baff. Am I pronouncing your name?
Baff.
Baff. Okay, this is Spanish. Geez. Okay.
It's Bulgarian, actually.
Yes, but it's pronounced with okay, Bulgarian. Okay, that happens. Christian Baff, he is the LGBT organizer with Causa. Causa is not an acronym. Causa, it actually means cause. The Causa Oregon, which has been around for, do you know how long?
Since 95.
Since 1995. And Christian, in the program that he runs, he's building LGBTQ leadership in Latino communities and strengthening strategic relationships with other LGBT communities and drawing the connection between movements for LGBTQ and immigrant rights. And Causa mostly works in the rural area. Is that right?
Well,
I'm going to give you a chance to.
Statewide.
Statewide. And then I'm going to introduce you to Romeo Sosa. He's the executive director of BOA's Worker Rights Education Project, which is in Portland, Oregon. And he is working on developing leadership among day laborers through a popular education approach that responds to the needs and priorities of day laborers on a local and national level. So, do we have people in this room from different projects? Economic justice, anti-GP, criminal justice, environmental justice. Oh my gosh, I'm going to forget with LGBTQ. Yes. And we have other guests, people that are joining. A mom?
Yes.
Yes, my moms. And immigration reform project, maybe? Okay.
I actually have signed up for that.
Yes, it hasn't started yet, so it's going to be specific. Thank you everybody for being here, and board members and other guests. Great. Anybody else that I missed? Okay. Next generation. Awesome. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves and your organization, and if you can tell us in 2 minutes, sorry, but in 2 minutes what your organization does, and what are you working right now? And do you want to start with it?
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Christian. I'm originally from Argentina. And we, in Causa, since 1995, the organization has been working for immigrant rights. And I'm part of the LGBT program. And this started about 2 years ago. But the organization has always supported basic rights Oregon. It's the organization for LGBT rights in Oregon. But as Causa in general has been working always for fighting against any measure that is anti-immigrant. And recently we were able to, with the Students Association, to pass tuition equity. And we are now working on driver's licenses for all in the state of Oregon, which has had the 3rd hearing and it's going well. So.
Great. Thank you.
I'm Romeo Sosa, and yeah, I'm from Guatemala, Mayan. I speak Spanish as a second language. This is my 5th language, so I apologize if I don't say things right. Sometimes like I confuse chicken and kitchen. I hope I'm not gonna say that today. So basically what we do is organizing day laborers and develop leadership among them, and we believe that only the people who are facing the issues, the people who are facing the issue, that's the people who are in the front line to change their own reality, and that's the key part of the VOS. So we use the popular education methodology, which is, this is not the way, so we always have a circle. So this creates the power, like, we know you don't know, we teach you how to. So the popular education is to teach each other, we learn from each other, and break the dynamic power that, say, la estructura de arriba para abajo, from up to from top to bottom. So we do a lot of things. We work in 4 campaigns, Save the Center, which it's dangerous right now. We're working in a wage theft campaign, and also we're working in immigration reform, and to stop the police-ICE collaboration, which we just have a victory like 3 weeks ago. The sheriff is not going to honor ICE hold in Multnomah County. But also we do a lot of other things that the invisible organizing that it's in our community. It's not visible to the public, it's not in the legislative, but develop political consciousness to the people, like to move from individual interest to collective interest. But it's a process. I don't know if I have the time to explain. Like later, the process that we do, how we move people. Because we have 3 levels of social consciousness, and the 3 levels will have different activities until people, they become leaders. Leaders is that we need to create the leaders, because I'm gonna die, somebody else will take our position. I think that one of the things that like we do is like we don't have one leader, we're all leaders, and we have one way or another have the capacity to be bold and to be leader in our community. So, but I think maybe it's in one of the questions later, I'm gonna answer it.
Yes. So, and good thing we don't have anybody else on Skype, so that would give us a little bit more time. So that's good.
Can you give me more?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
30
I didn't mention this, but we have a worker center which is recently opened 5 years ago, where we connect thousands of day laborers with them per every year. We have ESL classes, computer classes, art, music, and theater.
Great. That was the lesson. So let me ask you a question for both of you, and we want to start with Christian. What are the special challenges of organizing within the immigrant community? And in your experience, what have been those challenges in the specific community you work in?
Well, in general, to get the community engaged is already challenging. If we fight for social justice or anything that we care about. But in this case, we're asking people who are probably afraid of saying that they're undocumented to come up and say, by the way, I need this rights, and they're afraid of being separated from their families, and so that's very challenging. In my particularly work with the LGBT community, we have 2 challenges, because people usually come out from the immigrant closet and the LGBT closet, so to just come out and get engaged and say, I stand for this is very, very difficult, but it's possible.
I think I could just mention a few challenges. Our day laborers in the last few years, they become like a symbol of illegal immigration in this country, and they are like the targets from anti-immigrant groups. We have a lot of anti-immigrant groups protest in front of the worker centers, like they want us to disappear, or deport us. It's kind of like one of the challenge. How we put the human face of day laborers to the general public. And also, day laborers, they are very diverse. They're not only Latinos, they are African Americans, they are US born Americans. They are Asian, they are all over the world. They're women too. They're parents, mothers, sons, uncles, so that different ages. And they do all kind of work, like since painting, moving, landscaping, any kind of work. The organizing part, it is very challenging. We have like a very diverse background of each individual. Some of them, like they have like very talented people, like they are lawyers, they are engineers, and other they don't know how to read and write in their own language. Some of them they have like a military experience, and some of them they are part of the movement in Latin America, so they are leaders already. But despite this diversity, we have one thing in common: finding work. And I remember one of the laborers says, "We know we have diverse, but the only thing we have in common is get a job, and let's fight for that cause." We put that in big in our office. So to organize day laborers is not an easy thing. I think the word organizing, it's a theory, but in the practice it's totally different. So we use, like I mentioned, 3 level of social consciousness, how can unite people to create power and fight injustice for the issues they face. And they need to be involved. Nobody else can come.
And what are those 3 levels?
Okay, you can give a minute, right? I can explain briefly what's the 3 levels. We call tres niveles de conciencia política. I brought this in the movements in Latin America because I was part of the movement at the age of 13. I'm not really old. So I just this is kind of how we can involve people in the fight. How can we move from the self-interest to collective interest? You know, it's a process. It is a process. Like we use a lot of different tools. So the programs that we have at the BOS, it's designed to see all these different levels of political levels. The first level is that they never just come and look for work. You know, they have no political interest. This is fine. And a private job for a day, and we will have like a monthly assembly. These kids just come for food. You know, or they just come like show up for English classes, skill trainings, soccer, theater, health and safety classes. They have no interest, just, you know, no political interest. That's the first level of entry, and that's why and the music we design to be a tool to organize. The music, the ESL classes, and all the program involves is the methodology is popular education, which teaches others, like I mentioned before. So that's the first level. The second level is when they become like a little bit like active, like they can be a cook during the monthly assembly. They can be like, I don't know, taking care of the group, facilitating the workshops. Like they're not really thinking about food. Food is not like the way that we think that we organize people. Food is not really the entry. It's the entry point. And then they participate in like in the soccer. They can be the coach. They can be the like whatever, and they can play the music and they can create their own songs. And also they can be the person is going to go and march to testify. But the third level is when you become like really not, there's no money in the middle, there's no food in the middle. It's a political conscience. You do it because you saw the need. You want to change the reality, and you become involved in the executive committee and day labor committee, facilitate the monthly assembly, and become a voice of the rest of day laborers, and be the person who can be in the media and represent day laborers, and you can be at the national and regional gathering representing day laborers.
Thank you. I'll get back to you. Christian, tell us a little bit about your specific program, what you and how you engage your community. And recently, the LGBTQ immigrants have been more visible than ever in the immigrant rights movement. Why do you think that is, and what impact do you think it will have on the immigrant rights movement?
Well, we work very closely with other organizations, other groups. There is a group in California that's called the DocuQueer too. They're very active and they helped a lot with the tuition equity. The way we engage our base is we have support/social groups in 2 different cities every week. we try to, and these groups are open for anyone, not necessarily LGBT or Latino or immigrant. And this becomes a very collaborative group to support each other and to also understand, because sometimes people want to know but they don't have enough information. Also with these groups we have a radio show every week that we try to, it's online and it's in a community radio too in Woodburn, Oregon. We try to talk about all issues, immigration, LGBT, and anything to celebrities and stuff like that. But, and also we just started a theater project, actually spent long in the process, but we just actually started rehearsals. This play, we're gonna tour it around Oregon, and we might end up in Seattle sometime, to talk about a little bit of acceptance, about the immigration issue, and a little bit of everything. So it's an original piece. It's an hour and a half straight play. It's not really straight. It's kind of musical. So we can do whatever we want with it. So we're gonna videotape it and do many things and try to use this. And we already, just from the start, we started receiving some emails from people who auditioned and then for schedule problems couldn't make it. But I got like 3 emails already saying, thank you for doing this. I feel really identified with this story. And we hope that this goes to the community. And also to the parents of people who need to know all this.
So the topics that you are covering are immigrant issues, but also LGBTQ issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then one thing that I remember from our site visit last year was that the way in which you prepared for the messaging was very special too, and part of the organizing strategy. Like you started with some like trials or something with the community. Is that something that I remember?
Well, this was a project that it was a story in my head, and then some people started helping to put it in words, and then it became this collaborative project that we meet every week for many months to tweak the storyline and just grab little pieces from different stories, and the final product is great. So that's why I think it will touch many lives, because many people will feel identified with it.
I think that one of the things that I learned last year from what you were saying was that this idea of coming out twice and sensitize people around the idea that, and I don't know if you can speak more to this, how immigrant communities depend for support in their community, and coming out in either way, it's like removing some of that support that they have. So either coming out as an immigrant within the LGBT community, or coming out as a LGBTQ in your immigrant community removes that safety net that you might be having, something that all immigrants depend on when they're in this country. I don't know if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a challenge both ways, because even in the LGBT community, not necessarily everybody is pro-immigrant or understand what immigrants are going through. They don't also realize that a significant part of the LGBT community are immigrants who are affected by DOMA, who are affected by...
What's DOMA?
DOMA is the Defense of Marriage Act that hopefully will be repealed in June. The Supreme Court just heard about that. And it will define... Right now, DOMA defines marriage between a man and a woman. And if that's taken away from the Constitution, the amendment, it will recognize the couples who are married in states like Washington federally, and they will give them immigration rights, among other thousands of rights that are federal. So all these things are very important, and what's been happening is that the LGBT work, the LGBT program has been present in every cause event. We can see the need of coalition, the need of, and that the reception from the community, the immigrant community in general, has been great because they really understood that we have to do all this together, otherwise it won't work. And we have a big march coming up that happens every year in Salem, in the capital of Oregon. This year we expect about 10,000 people. For the past 2 years, the LGBT community has been present there with rainbow flags and stuff. But it's been amazing, the reception, because people understand that even though they may not have someone in their family who is LGBT, but they understand the immigration part of it, and it's very important to support each other.
Thank you, Christine. So, both of your organizations for many years have been working, and I forgot to ask you how long has BOS been in existence?
13 years.
13 years. So both of your organizations have been working really hard for comprehensive immigration reform. And it looks like it's happening. It looks like it's there. And in some form or something it's going to happen. So can you tell us how your grassroots organizing has been contributing to this important bill happening? If we can start. And then after that, we're going to talk about, so if we can concentrate on how have you been working to contribute to this bill to pass, and also how, later on, what other things are happening that you're working against. So maybe anti-immigrant initiatives are happening. So, but first, the first case.
Okay, I think I'm just going to start that any immigration bill in the past, day labor has been excluded. So as a day labor organization, and the most important thing is that BOS is a worker-led, that I former day labor too. 3 of the staff are day laborers. And the 60% of the board is composed by day laborers. And we have to fight for our own cause, right? We want to be included. So one of the things that we were doing for immigration reform is that what kind of immigration reform we want. You know, we did this consulta popular kind of. We ask everyone, what kind do you want? You know, do you want to be included or not? Yes. 100% they want to be included, right? They want to become like legal in this country. So and also we ask like 10 specific questions, what kind of immigration and how much you're willing to pay, how much you can willing to give, not just ask, but also to give to part of the movement. So we want to have the voices of the day laborers in the debate, because it's nice to hear that 11 million people they're going to be legalized, right? Is that serious? Is that true? You know. But in the reality, I was telling her, in the reality, when you go online, what's going to happen is not everyone is going to talk. So, but BOS is prepared to work with or without documents in the future. Our fight is not just for change to the legal or whatever, immigrants, the new people. But we know that it's going to exclude a lot of people. And legally, these people who are excluded, they legally become like criminals for just to be present in this country. And if this is bad, the situation, it's going to be worse. That's going to be inhumane, the way that people are going to live in the future. Because in the laws, we have studied the laws, and a lot of them, like, it's secure the border, it's one of the first things. And I didn't mention this, but we are connected with the National Day Labor Organizing the Work. And we're 45 members of the national, we call Endelon. And our brothers and sisters in Arizona, they tell us the reality, how secure is the border, how bad it's already right now, and what's the reinforce, what's the enforcing more. So kind of those, we understand each other because we have like every month conference calls, and we are participating. We formed this immigration reform committee, which from all over the country, they laborers talking about how we're going to fight this. how can we have our voices on the table? And one of the things that we don't want is a requirement is that not to have a permanent employer during the 3 years, because that's in the past, that's been excluded day labor. Day laborers that have every different employers almost every day, you know. So it have to not to be required, which is not included right now. So we are not making noises because it's going to be sooner. I don't know, the debate is going to come. They may going to include that. But I think the visit and like we have done to the Congress and to the legislators, they're hearing us. And it seems like the sign it's not there, but there is some part of like the bill that we are not agreeing, but at the same time, we are in solidarity with the other brothers and sisters like the laborers who are fighting in the border.
So one of the, there's like, right now the bill as it looks like, it has like some requirements that people have to have in order to qualify to get documentation. And I still don't know them by heart, which ones they are, but some of those requirements are the ones that organizations like yours are going to be fighting for, to include or not to include, and that's where the fight's going to be happening. So how about CAUSA? What is the work that the CAUSA has been done to get to this from its historical momentum of?
Yeah, CAUSA's always been organizing the base, the people, and working in local, state anti-immigrant measures or pro-immigrant measures. But also we are part of FIRM, which is the national group that is doing all this immigration reform thing. And they started a Keeping Families Together campaign, and we're part of that. And of course, we're gonna keep working very closely with them. We often go to different things in Washington, D.C. to try to keep this momentum going. And in my side of things, right now the proposed bill does not include same-sex couples. So there's gonna be work to be done there too. Yeah, so they're proposing a 13-year process to get from undocumented to citizen, quite a bit of fines. But as he mentioned, that we know that not everybody will qualify. This work will never end, really. But it's important to try to get as much as we can from what we're asking for.
Because right now, so if you are undocumented and you don't have like permanent residency, I could marry a guy and get citizenship in 3 or 5 years, a person of the same sex.
In my case, for example, I'm married in Iowa, and all places. But I could have waited a month. I could have gone to New York. But yeah, binational couples, they don't get federal rights, and one of the federal rights are immigration rights. For the person who is a citizen to be able to ask for their loved one, to ask for papers, and that's one of the things we don't have.
So it's going to be one of the things. So, Romeo, tell us a little bit about day laborers. Who are they? I know I asked you that in the past, but not everybody was there in the past panel. But tell us about why they were day laborers. Who are they and why do they exist? So let me just give context. Does everybody know Casa Latina? There's an organization here in Seattle that works with day laborers. They used to be down here in Battery, I think it was, Battery and First. They just moved, and if you've seen people, they moved to a beautiful new building up in the Central District. And I believe you guys do some work with this national campaign. But tell us about who are day laborers and why they exist, and are they all Latinos?
Yeah, you can see it, they live here. So we're human. where people like you and me try to survive, you know, try to make a living. And I think talking about day laborers, it's not an accident to have day laborers. It's how do you say, it's made by the U.S. It's an economic thing that U.S. created. It's when the U.S. Passed the free trade agreements in Mexico and all over, create more migration. And like I was mentioning the last, maybe some of you were in the last panel, that I studied law. I have 3 years of law, but I never thought I was going to be in the street. I came to the United States. That for me is, in my country, they see that the gringos, they have everything like, everything's computer. But in the reality, when I ended up in the street corners where they don't work, my first job, they gave me a shovel. And everything's machine, everything's computer, everything. And so I just like, there's nothing there. Yeah, so kind of like I say, they exist because also there is a demand of laborers, temporary workers. And also they exist because they are good employers. But also there is bad employers that they don't want to pay. You know, like they try to pay the minimum wage. There's a lot of abuses happen in our community. And also day labor is not new. Now they become more Latinos than any other race. But if you know the history, the African American, they've been day laborers years ago. And this is the new race that become more visible, that we are end up looking for work on the streets. But also we're organizing ourselves that we try to end up the injustice that
Can you talk a little bit, and can you talk a little bit about the theft wage campaign? I practice so much to say theft wage. It's that. See, I practice it. It's I'm traumatized by that. It's wage theft. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the work you do around that, and what is wage theft for day laborers?
Yeah, wage theft, it's come like in different ways. Like an employer doesn't want to pay you at all, or try to pay the minimum wage, or give you a check without funding, don't give you an opportunity to take a break or lunch, or they don't tip you. Whatever the tips, like it's going to the employer. So this is a different way that employers, they try to get away. And the laborers, they're really the more visible people and easy to get away with the wages. And in an informal survey we did with day laborers in the last, like, if you didn't get paid or denied break in the last 2 years, the 50% of the laborers, they say that they have suffered that wage theft. So there's a lot of people there. Just in the day labor industry, there's other industry that comes also with us. And also, like I can mention how to fight this like back. I just like say like we do a lot of like action against the wage theft. One of the things we have done as a boss, we don't depend on for a lawyer. That's the last thing we can do. But to do like one of the things we do, I think I have this booklet we call Libreta del Trabajador. This is our Bible. This is kind of like you have rights in this country, but also you have responsibilities. In this book, you can document all the information you have. What's the name of the employer's phone number, a witness if you have, agreement, like how much verbal agreement it's okay in the state of Oregon, and what time did you start, if you take a break or not, what time you finish work, and what kind of work did you do, and what's the reason that employer doesn't want to pay you. So all this information we write it here, and so if in case the employer doesn't want to pay, so it also there's a part that write the license plate of the car. Because a lot of people, we end up find their home because the license plate of the car. So we do we use the media to get their money back, or we use police. We use protest in front of the houses. We do a lot of. We go to their churches, embarrass them that this guy doesn't pay you. He's part of your church. So kind of different strategy. And the last thing we do when it doesn't work, we pass to a lawyer. But we know that the lawyer takes some of the mentality of the laborers that a lawyer it's going to be quickly to solve the problem. It's not true. So it takes another process. So that's we work in a coalition that now we are 35 organizations. Among them there are unions, churches, different organizations that it's a coalition to stop the wage theft in the state of Oregon. Cause is one of them too. So we just we're all of them to introduce the legislation. 4 bills, 2 of them died and 2 of them still continue. It's going to go to the floor.
Christian, so all the work that you do, and if you can, for someone who's not in the field, who's not an organizer every single day, some of you are, some of you are not, how does your day-to-day work looks like? How does the day on the life of a LGBT organizer for Causa looks like, including any stories that we can share to make it real, because we know that the issues are real, but tell us.
Well, mostly the work how our work works is having one-on-one communication with our base, and I spend most of my Mondays, or every Monday, down in Salem. I'm based in Portland right now, and I live in Portland. Because we have the weekly meetings over there, and we usually sometimes have staff meetings and a bunch of meetings there. But other than that, I go to meet with different organizations and spend a lot of time in Basic Rights Oregon, as I said, at Western State Center. I'm a part of a few cohorts there. And I sometimes I don't have time to go to the office. I end up in my pajamas at home working from the computer. So right now with the theater project that we're starting, we have lots of preparation for that. Preparation for the radio show. We have rehearsals 3 times a week, and so I pretty much don't stop working.
So you say you do one-on-ones?
Yeah, and then we, with the support groups in both cities, we lot of things come up, and we ask them to be real with us, so we have to respond as well. Like I end up being a counselor as well too sometimes. And it's important to hear what the need of the community is, because that's what we do. We work for the community, and we cannot just come up with some issue that someone mentioned on TV and work on that. We just need to work what the community needs. So that's how it works.
So the name of our panel was how do the immigrant communities get stronger, working on even in some very anti-immigrant environments. And so I don't know if any of you can come up with a very specific example of an anti-immigrant initiative that the organization has faced and that has made your community stronger by working towards it or against it.
I think one of the biggest examples is when we opened the Worker Center. A lot of anti-immigrants were going for immigration reform, and the Minutemen.
I'm sorry. And after that, you guys, if you have questions, please get ready.
So
you can explain who the Minutemen are.
The Minutemen are supposed to be the people who are on the border to try to stop illegal immigration, and it's the civil people without uniform, but they have guns. But they are here in Oregon, so they protest against us. Some of them they have a gun, and So they come like in front of the worker center. They try to make to try to not open the worker center. They testify in the city council. They protest, and but different kind of like anti-immigrant people, like these even radios, Victoria Taft, Larry Larson, politician, you know, they are like against immigrants. So, but I think our response is in a very peaceful way, that we don't hate them, like we don't have the same feeling like they have, but we're not afraid of them. So there's people, they are confused, they don't know what they're doing, something they're crazy maybe. And so we just like really respond in a peaceful way. We have like a legal observer team, like people who come out when we need them, document all the, or record all the, like the, whatever the action is in a peaceful way. They have a right to protest, but in just in a peaceful way. So we have fight about, they tried to pass an anti-solicitation bill, like to not have the right to look for work in the streets, but didn't really go anywhere. And just recently in the California, in San Francisco, it was a victory nationally, because for about 10 years, day laborers, they fight this, even the Supreme Court, that looking for work on the street, it's now legal. It's the First Amendment, the right to speak. And so it's like went nationally. So now we have the right to look for work on the street.
Awesome. That's good. How about for you, Chris?
In a big march, we always have big numbers. The May 1st one I'm talking about. We have a big security team, but the security team is not to protect the immigrants. The security team is to protect the ones who are against us, because you don't want them to get in trouble. But we've seen firsthand the last few weeks when we started having hearings about the driver's licenses in Oregon, that you know how hearings are, 3 people testify for it, 3 against it. The ones that are against it are very hurtful and mean. And so, but so many people from the community showed up, and we filled out many overflow rooms. And it was hard to hear these words, but it also was a moment to show how the community needs to come together. And even though hearing these really hurtful things, we are powerful. So it's very important.
Do you guys have specific questions? Kara, anybody else? Okay, let's start with Kara.
Thank you both for speaking. I've been reading about the immigration bill for the past few days in particular, but for a while. And one of the things that struck me is that the news is saying that the majority of Americans across the political spectrum are in favor of immigration reform. And so I guess I'm wondering, how is that for you as leaders of your organizations? Like, one, how do you sort of use that information for your constituency? And also, would you say that that's true of the populations that you represent and, you know, work as part of?
It's touchy, because the community, the immigrant community knows that it's true that most Americans are in favor right now, but also they know, and they're very clear, they're not stupid. They know that many people are doing it for political reasons. And sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Well, I guess as a leader of your organization, do you think that that is also true for people in terms of LGBT, you know, rights and expression? Like, how does that affect you? Sort of
Definitely,
specifically?
times are changing. This year is very exciting because everything's happening kind of at once. And as we spoke before, it's a result of so much work from many groups and many organizations. Everything kind of lined up to work happen at the same time, and that's great, but I think we just have to grab this momentum and try to make everything work. And as what we always say, we ask for the whole piece of bread, but we get what we can. But we're always trying to get as much as we can.
I think maybe I didn't understand the whole question.
Sure. Oh, sure. General, sí.
¿Sí piensa?
¿Cómo utiliza, qué piensa esto de que las polls dicen que más del 50% de la población está de acuerdo con immigration reform? Pero ¿cómo utiliza esa información para beneficio de su grupo? ¿Y si cree que es verdad? ¿Y si utiliza esa información para ayudarle?
I think it's obviously that immigration reform that seems like everybody wants in a different way. Even the anti-immigrants, when they protest against us, they say, "Why do you come in the door? Why do you go online? We want that line, right? That line doesn't exist. Let's help us to make that line, And it's kind of an education for us to talk with anti-people. They hate us a lot, but they don't understand how the immigration system works here in this country. If the result that is like a 50%, it's because dialogue, it's because our community, it's because put the human face of immigration, it's because the marches, it's become more visible, and I think for me, yes, it's a big change. For the first time, unions, they are very involved in the immigration reform, and business, they're involved in the immigration reform, but they have their own interest. Business, they want immigration reform because they want to pay cheaper. Unions, they want to, a lot of people in the unions, don't have documents, but they fight for better wages and better working conditions. Like two different heads, brains, and anti-immigrants, they don't want illegal people here, they want legal people here, but help us then. So kind of go have a common ground. We don't want people who live in shadows. But I think it's a process of education, and for me it's a big thing. Americans, they really change and really analyzing now. What's this? Somebody told me that why don't you come get a visa and come to the U.S. They think anybody in the U.S. can go everywhere in the world, except in Cuba. You can go anywhere, but for us to come here in the United States, you can't. But I'm glad that I can see that, and it's a big change for us. And I think the future of this country is going to be a lot of immigrants.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I guess along
Yes.
those lines, and this may be repeating some of what you guys have already covered, but it's clear that there's some urgency in this moment with, as of yesterday, with movement for immigration reform. And so, from your guys' perspective, where are numbers needed? From people who are in support, the majority of people in this room, of immigration reform, where is help needed? What from your perspective? And that's the second question.
Can I rephrase it?
I guess just where how can we help? I mean, where are numbers needed? At this moment, with this urgency, with this opportunity, from your perspective, what is that?
I don't know, probably the director of my organization or someone will be able to answer that more accurately. Sadly, the world works with money, and for campaigns and stuff, money always helps. But just not talking about money, just to talk about starting conversations with one another. And I think one of the most powerful conversations that can happen from someone who's not specifically directly affected but cares about some issue is very important. I can talk about gay rights because I'm gay, but if a person who is straight talks about gay rights and believes about them, it's much more powerful. So we need that support, and that's very important. I think that's even more important than money to me. Yeah, just anything that we're doing to make it bigger, it will make a bigger impact. In general.
I think May 1st is coming too. I know that in
May
Seattle,
1st.
there's gonna be a big march for immigration reform. That's another way to be present. And all the anti-immigrant bills, we need to defeat it.
One of the questions I was asking Romeo before we started the panel was that, so this immigration reform is supposed to be comprehensive and try to address all of the issues that different immigrants are living in. So once they become legal, with a legal status in this country, they're going to be able to work, they're going to be able to drive. You know that Washington State is one of the only 2 states right now, and 3 states in the whole country that documented immigrants can actually have driver license. Oregon is one of them that doesn't. There's many other laws that are against immigrants. For instance, are you guys familiar with E-Verify, which is it sounds very simple, but it's a law that is trying to be passed throughout the national, like in the country, and they're doing it by counties and states, where everybody who asks for work needs to be verified in a digital system to see if they have documents or not. So immigrant organizations or immigrant rights organizations have been working and organizing against having that, because what happens, the only thing that happens is if you're not going to stop driving just because you don't have a driver license. What's going to happen is it's going to drive without a driver license, and there's going to be other problems that are going to happen after that. The same thing for if you can't work. So what's going to happen? It's very likely that employers can abuse of the situation because they know that you're not documented. Like it happens right now, but if it happens to everybody. So I was asking Romeo, so if immigration reform is going to happen, then why are the organizations still working for this other bill, such as education, what is it? Tuition equity, which means, and then I'd like you to explain what it means. But all of these different laws, why are the organizations still working on them at the same time as they're working on the bill for immigration reform? And so I wanted to give you that space to ask you touch a little bit upon that. Well, they said that there's 11 million undocumented, but are they going to all get it? And so if you can expand on that idea, that gives you a sense of how the struggle is going to continue no matter what, and where can we do something about it?
I think E-Verify, like she explained, it's part of the bill already, and if that's gonna pass,
Of the immigration reform bill.
the immigration reform bill. So if that's gonna pass, the people like we're not gonna qualify for documents. So if this is bad, it's gonna be worse.
Excuse me to say too, the E-Verify is not perfect because there's so many Jorge Lopez that so many of them. And then people who actually do have documents will be taken out of work because of this.
Yeah, and thanks for explaining that. And I think that, like I mentioned, we still gonna continue to work with that population, and also to have a piece of paper. How many numbers is in the Social Security? to have that 9 numbers, that 11 million to have. That not means that end up the racism. That not means that like we don't fight for justice and dignity. The fight will continue. And I think for me, to give the papers, we call papers, I don't know if you understand me, but just translate literally documentation to the people that that's not it. And somebody asked me the same thing too. What's gonna do like if immigration reform is gonna pass? Let's say we're gonna close the door, go home, thank you very much. No, so we're gonna continue.
And can you explain a little bit about tuition equity?
Tuition equity just passed in Oregon, and it was to ask for undocumented students who happen to grow up inside the state, that when it comes time for them to go to college, they have to pay out of state tuition, just because they don't have a social security. And they are people who grew up, who probably came to the United States, and they grew up in the state since they were 2-3 years old, maybe some few months old, and it's not their fault at all to be here, not a choice. And gladly it passed in Oregon. And it was interesting because one of the people, many of the people against this bill were saying, well, but if my son or my daughter wants to come to Oregon and study in Oregon, but they're living in another state, how come they don't pay for in-state tuition? And that's different. It's very different because you still have to live for a year inside the state. So, but it was something new. The same with the E-Verify. There are things that are not. They might have, from their perspective, a good intention, but they don't work well either way. So.
Wendy.
Well, I'm not sure if this affects you, but I wonder if you guys see any like resistance from from immigrants, but like documented immigrants, like who, like, cause I have or my parents are immigrants, and like a lot of my coworkers are immigrants, but I see this like anti-immigrant reform like mood from them as well. Like, how do you guys like deal with that, or if you have to deal with it at all?
It has to do with the difference. When we talk about immigrants, people most likely will generalize and they think people from Mexico. And they don't realize that the immigration system works differently for every single country. When so many immigrants, they say, well, I did it the legal way, why don't you do it the legal way? And that's the big debate, and that's how they testify against many or pro many bills too. It's like there's no legal way to do it. There's not a possibility to go behind the line because there is not a line. And if there is one, it's about 20 years. So yeah, it happens, and sadly also to many of the people who are treating immigrants badly in the border were immigrants themselves. So.
Yeah, it's the same thing. For us, when we opened the Worker Center, we saw this candidate for the state of Oregon. Her name is Delia Lopez, Latina. It's against immigrants, against the Worker Center. It's ironic, but it's a reality. I think for me, it doesn't matter the color of the people going to be there, but just do the just decision. You know, even if our own people doesn't, you know, it's ironically it's our own people, but that's the reality.
One of the workshops that we do with all of our GIM projects is about race and class and the intersection between class and race, and how all of our people in our grantees that live in this world, what does that have to do? And I think that, and I want to hear your opinion on this, but when you think of how do they intersect in the immigration system? You can think of, there are every year, as I know, 5,000 visas for they're called non-professional visas. So if you're a nanny or a day laborer, there are 5,000 visas a year. That gives you an idea. I know 5,000 people, I think, you know, only. So that gives you an idea of who can enter. But if you have a certain amount of money in this country, you can come in and out as many times as you want. And if you are educated in another country, you have a lot more possibilities to come here and to, or educated with certain assets. You can come here and then also advance. So you keep, the people who are poor keep being poor because you're a poor in your country, and then you came here and you're still. And so that's one of the things that we talk about in our workshops. And that for me, it's very easy to see in the immigration system because it's not only the way in which people come, but the access to resources that they have when they come here. And not only that, but then that's where race plays in the stereotypes that we were talking about. They would never assume, people would never assume that someone has studied because, or that it's their fifth language, or it's certain other things. That's what I believe. Race and class play a huge role in things.
Well, also keeping in mind that most immigrants don't come here just because they always thought about living in another country and leaving their families behind. There's people who are in a well-economic position in their home countries and stay there. But also I know so many people who are accountants, professors, and even a doctor. I know that they are nannies or they're day laborers right now. So, and they try to do it the legal way, even with a degree. So it's so tricky, so tricky. And I don't know where to fit this, but I just want to say that also one of the big things that people who are against immigration reform instantly will say is that let's not give these people free stuff, or because they don't pay taxes. It's like you get actual PIN number, like a tax ID number that is the same amount of numbers as a Social Security to pay your taxes, and only people without Social Security can get this number. To pay taxes on a work that you don't supposed to be doing, but they want your money anyways. And 98% of immigrants do pay taxes with this number, and that's how it's crazy how the immigration system is broken this way.
I have a question just in your studies and what you've gone through. Are there any other countries that have established any kind of, I don't know, more fair and more equitable situations for immigration? Is there anything that anyone has done that's maybe a better idea than what we're trying to do?
Cuba.
Oh.
I don't know. In Argentina, where I'm from, we don't treat very well people from Paraguay and Bolivia and Peru that want to come to our country. But I wasn't aware of all this when I was actually on this side of the story until because now I know there are so many people who work there and they're undocumented. They're not treated well. So yeah, the European Union, but it's another whole story too. So.
I think for me is that the poor people can come here in this country with visa, but the rich, yes. So one of the requirements in my country, if you have $10,000 in the bank and you have a business, you're welcome to get a visa and go to the United States. Make sure you're not going to stay there and work. So poor people, if I don't have like $10,000, I shouldn't be here, you know. And so kind of those situations, but I really didn't understand the question.
Well, I think that it's a good question, and I think that it has to do with how this is a global issue, and that we're not going to fix it by, I don't know, but we're not going to fix it by small responses. You know, it needs and it requires a global response as well, because immigration is happening everywhere. So.
And law changes. There's a few things that will always be wrong. Killing a person, stealing, that will always be wrong. But in the 1800s, the only thing you had to do to immigrate to this country was to actually step in this country, and anybody could sign your citizenship.
Right.
Anybody. Right now it's different.
We're all
So-
immigrants. Most of us are all immigrants.
Yes.
You know, just a matter of how much time we think.
So that's why we, sometimes when people accuse the movement of, oh, we're supporting illegal stuff, well, but look at the law, how it changes, and how not so long ago it was different. So that's very important to clarify.
Any question? So let me just ask you this one. There's a lot of things that happen for the immigrant communities, you know, a lot of injustices and a lot of people trying to survive, just trying to find work, just trying to get a sense of community. There's a lot of deportation, it's not going to work, it's anti-law. How do you guys keep going? What makes you keep going? And how do you celebrate, and if you celebrate your victories? What is it that keeps you and your organizations alive and wanting to move on? Is there a specific story? Is there something that you guys think about? Because this is tough. So how do you lift up your spirits and continue the struggle and invite us to join you?
I think it's interesting. I was laughing because organizing, it's a funny thing too, and we use a lot of like funny tools to organize day labors, the music, the poetry. How do you say chistes? Jokes, comics, whatever. I remember this, one of day labor in the National Gallery, the talents of day laborers. And he came out telling us a joke. And he said, you know guys, anti-immigrant groups, they're telling us that day laborers, they don't speak English. And I want to tell you the truth. All the day laborers, they speak English. Who are in the street, they speak English. And he says, do you know why? As soon as an employer comes to the corner and he says, I need someone who speaks English, and everybody like, yes. The only thing they say, yeah. And I remember one day he was telling that one of my co-workers says, he went to work and he says, you speak English? Yeah. Do you want to go work? Do you want to go with me to work? Okay. So he went in the car, and what's your name? Yeah. And what kind of like skills do you have? Okay. Okay. We make fun of ourselves, and that's true. It's a reality, like happening at the corner. And everybody, because the need to get a job for the day, you know, he would say at the end, why we lie, guys? Like, why we do this? It's because we're hungry. We just need some like money at the end of the month, you know. But at the same time, we do like theater. Theater, like it's another thing. We've been creative, like to show the other community how they labor lives and what kind of work they do. You know, like even myself, I have a lot of stories like to tell. Like even I laugh at myself. I did horrible things. Even I came to the U.S. Well, the first thing when I came to, because I told you that I was they lived for a few weeks only in Los Angeles. And when I got to the street, and everybody, I was like afraid. I was new in this country. I don't know what to do. And everybody, when the car stops by, and everybody's surrounded. And me too, I was surrounded by them. And then they do like this sign, like, you know, a car stopped, everybody do this sign, and I start doing the same sign. It's kind of like automatic, it's contagious, like the sign. And then my first thing, like I learned at the corner, is like, everybody's saying like, how many? Like, that was my first word in the United States. And also I wasn't sure if I say it right. Like I was just following prayer. How many? And at the end of the day, and I asked one of the people at the corner, what does that mean? I was saying, but what does that mean? And he says, I don't know, but everybody else saying. And later I find out, like, it's like, how many people do you need to go to work? And so, but I just, like, you know, everybody says, I said the same thing. But I think for me, it's like important things to teach English to the neighbors, teach the basic thing, like, start it with hour. You know, what kind of work? Like, how much you pay per hour? Kind of these tools you need immediately. And that's our ESL teacher would try to tell them, this is the reality of the corner. You need to start at that point.
I never ever saw myself being an organizer or being in a parade with a flag. I ended up doing that, I don't know why, but I know why. I think because I started listening to stories and caring a little bit more and more and more about all the different people that have been affected by these stories, and that's what I think we should all do. And we don't know until we hear, and then we start asking questions and feel okay about asking questions, because that's how we learn, how we start caring about the person and not just the issue. We need to see the person too.
Well, Rosa?
Yeah, I had a question about for day laborers. What do you see as the main health issues that the day laborers are facing, and where are people going for healthcare, if anywhere?
The main
Health.
issue? Yeah, we did a survey with a health issue, but like two years ago. And the result of the survey that they have high blood pressure, so always things in Spanish and can translate in English. Diabetes and alcohol and drug and alcohol. So kind of like the three top health issues.
And you ask, where do they go?
Yeah, are people getting
Yeah.
health care anywhere?
I know, it's interesting. After we did the study at school, and we, together with OHSU, it's a hospital, they help us to do, they have like a grant to do this study. And the result was that, and then that's the challenge, where to go? And everybody like asks for social security number or these. So we have to try to find out like where, like they don't ask any documentation how to keep children. But it's a challenge. A lot of day laborers, they don't go anywhere. They just like some of the day laborers, they haven't seen dentists since any, like until here, 30 years later. Somebody says, oh, I don't have rats in my teeth. I don't know, I have never seen a doctor. And some of them, they haven't. In Guatemala, for example, you have to have money in order to see a doctor. Or you have to find out how to take care of yourself. Like we use herbs as an alternative. And in here, some of them are really bad. And plus that, you don't have access to hospital and stuff. It's a challenge for us.
Well, I want to thank you both for being here, for sharing your stories. Everybody here too. I want to give a round of applause for me. We go ahead and have our sessions in a circle, right?
Sorry to say that.
No, that's good. That's good. We believe in that too. And I want to really thank everybody for coming here. I hope you learned something, got inspired. Some of you are Given Project members. I think most of you, and a mom, which we like. This is just a taste of what you get by reading everybody's applications, as well as site visits later on. When you're reading applications from folks, you wish you could be asking back a question. So what do you mean when you say this? What do you say? Then we write down questions, and then we go and visit them. We did the Immigration Reform Giving Project. For this year, we did it on Skype. It's the first time we were doing it. Just wanted to do it in a short way to see if we could move it along quickly. But usually we visit the organizations, we sit down. Last year we had a potluck Causa. We had a tour of the day laborers with boss in Portland and people that are going to Montana. If you're a member, you can also join. You can also invite people that you're part of the program. Hopefully you'll have some language to tell people that you met people that work directly, that they looked like this and they told you this joke, and you'll probably have a story that you'll bring to your friends and family. And let me see if I need to give you something. There is the Member Engagement Committee at the Social Justice Fund. Everybody who's part of a given project, after they're joining the given project, they can be part of a committee. And then one of them is a Member Engagement Committee after you are. And Sasha here is one of the members, right? So is Raph. And so is Raph. Oh, right, because Raph is also in a given project. Yeah. So if anybody is interested in learning more, ask one of us. And we hope to see you at Zeke's Pizza. Our director's name is called Zeke, so I kept thinking we were going to go to his house.
Me too,
Until
but
I
they
read
spelled it wrong.
Yes, is that spelled wrong?
Yes.
It's spelled like our director, right?
No.
it's spelled
Yeah.
The pizza place spelled it wrong.
Oh, Zeke. Okay, but we invite you guys too to have some pizza, and thank you everybody for being here. Any questions, comments before we close up?
Just one.
Yes.
We have a documentary we created in Voice. It's because the attacks of anti-immigrant groups. If we still have like not really like copies, we have only the original. We have put in many theaters in Poland. It's we call jornaleros. Jornaleros means day laborers. It's the story of 5 day laborers through poetry, painting, and sing music, telling their story. If anybody is interested, we can still come to Seattle to show it.
Oh, that would be a good one. Yes. Yes. And I know that there's a table out here for more information with all the organizations and T-shirts and things you can buy from some of the organizations. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Are you gonna-
Hay como 3.
Bueno, hablo porque tengo que salir de mi
Yo no sé cuál fue el plan de sí.
Sí, sí, me dijeron que los dos dejaron.
¿Con quién se vino? Ah, sí, de ahí.
Ok.
Sí, ve para que no te muevas.
Pero ¿cómo vas?
¿Dónde te lo dejo? Yo ni sé dónde es, así que yo también.
Yeah, just, you guys agree for that.
So I heard some Spanish, I guess.
Yeah.
She knows.
You guys agree for
Yeah. Actually, remember.